You need the Word. And right now, I am still in the middle of the series called The Plagues of Egypt. And I have already spoken on two of the plagues of Egypt. And actually, none of those two are the traditional 10 plagues of Egypt that we normally associate with the plagues of Egypt. The first one was simply called bumps over blessings. And it's when we look at sometimes the things that have gone wrong that we think are wrong in our life, and we fail to look at all of the blessing God has given. And this happened with Jacob when Pharaoh asked Jacob, how's your life been? And he said, my life just been short and evil. And he was 130 years old then, and he had all these blessings, but he was focusing on the things that had gone wrong in his life and not all the so many blessings that God had granted him. And then the second was a two-part called The Plague That Saves Your Life. And this was when God had sent plagues to Pharaoh's house and had stopped up the wounds in Abimelech, because if they had touched Sarah, they would have been killed. And it was this plague that saved Pharaoh's life. And the second part of that plague dealt with how it was such a blessing to Pharaoh's lineage down the road. It was one of those real deep sermons. And today I'm going to deal with a third plague of Egypt, but it's still not yet into the 10 plagues. And if you would, I want you to just play this. This is from Exodus. It is the 7th chapter, the first 14 verses from the Bible speaker. Go ahead.
The Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I have made you as God to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you. And Aaron your brother shall speak to Pharaoh, that he let the children of Israel go out of his land. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh will not listen to you, and I will lay my hand on Egypt, and bring out my armies, my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. The Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch out my hand on Egypt, and bring out the children of Israel from among them." Moses and Aaron did so. As the Lord commanded them, so they did. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 years old, when they spoke to Pharaoh. The Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, "When Pharaoh speaks to you, saying, 'Perform a miracle,' then you shall tell Aaron, 'Take your rod and cast it down before Pharaoh, that it become a serpent.'" Moses and Aaron went in to Pharaoh, and they did so, as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called for the wise men and the sorcerers. They also, the magicians of Egypt, did the same thing with their enchantments, for they each cast down their rods, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rods swallowed up their rods. Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he didn't listen to them, as the Lord had spoken. The Lord said to Moses, "Pharaoh's heart is stubborn. He refuses to let the people go." You're listening to the Bible Speaker from thebiblespeaker.com.
This third plague of Egypt, the plague of stubbornness. Now, it is interesting with this particular series of verses, and with all of the first 5 of the traditional plagues, the Bible says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. This is kind of one of those deep ones. And we've heard this preached about countless times, about the plagues. But what I've never heard talked about is God making a person stubborn. How many of you all know some stubborn folk? Pretty much most of the folk know some. How many of you have been stubborn yourselves at times? And yet, as I read through this, and this was not even one of the original plagues that I was planning on preaching on, but as I I began to read over and over. It just kept popping out. Wait a minute. God made Pharaoh stubborn. He hardened his heart so that he would not listen to the voice of his prophet, so that he would not do what God told him to do. Let God's people go. God made Pharaoh stubborn. Now, this is a deep thing because we've often heard many preachers say that we have free will, which I believe we do to a certain extent. But here we look at this, and Pharaoh did not have full free will because God made him stubborn. He hardened his heart. He hardened his heart where he just wouldn't. Y'all ever had somebody, you trying to tell them something, trying to help them, and they just won't listen? They're just stubborn. They want to do what they want to do. And the more immature they are, the more stubborn they can become. You're trying to tell, look, you need to do this. You're going to damage yourself like that. You're going to cause all kind of problems. This is what you just won't listen. This is how Moses had to feel talking to Pharaoh, but God had already told him, I'm going to harden his heart. He is not going to listen to you. He is not going to let the people go. And I'm doing this so that I can bring my hand against Egypt. Now, he told why he did it, but the interesting thing is he did it. He interfered with the human being's free will. And that's the deep part, is that God basically took away Pharaoh's free will. Have you all ever just felt like you were just compelled to do something? And a lot of times, the Flip Wilson on his comedy show always used to have this famous line. What was the famous line? The devil made me do it. The devil made me do it. Have you ever thought that there is a possibility that God made you do it? Because that was Pharaoh's case. When the plague